Hello and welcome back to Blackwatch Intel. My name is Crashy, and today we're going to be talking about the roles in Overwatch. But before we get into that, I do want to let you guys know that I've decided to do a coaching series. I'm going to do, the best coaching that I can. I'm going to be as analytical as I possibly can. I'm going to talk about different situations. But what I need you to do is to upload a video either to YouTube Unlisted or Google Links, or Google Drive rather, and email it to bwicoach@gmail.com, 720p, 30 FPS minimum. Only send me links. I'm not going to download any files, obviously. And I'm looking forward to getting that series started. It's kind of just testing it out, seeing what we're going to do with it, and hopefully that's something that's enjoyable. So, into today's video, I want to talk about roles in terms of competitive mode, and I want to talk about hero classifications and classes. Now, the reason I'm bringing this all up is because people are talking about the preferred, queue system, preferred hero queue, and role queue, and I think people are getting so caught up on this idea that if we had a system like that, it would be forcing a meta, or what happens when you queue up for support and then the person's a one-trick Symmetra player, and things like that definitely could happen, especially in the system that we talked about. But I think it's important not to classify the game and a system like that based on the classes that are in the game, and more so on the roles that are in the game. And I do think that there's a distinction, and it's kind of going off my opinion, at least on what I'm going to talk about specifically, but it's also going off of what you see in a lot of high-level games, and just in general what the teams need in order to be successful in Overwatch. So I want to talk about the classifications of heroes in Overwatch and how they're a very strong oversimplification of what the heroes can do for new players. Let's talk about the four that are in the game. There is offense, defense, support, and tank. Now, why I call these oversimplifications of what the heroes can do is because it gives you a very broad understanding of what heroes are actually capable of, what they actually do. You can see that the majority of the offense heroes are your very kind of in-your-face type of DPS. They're the mobile heroes, and the defense tree is more of the kind of stationary, more niche, most of them very niche and not so mobile. As for support, you have a mix of healers and kind of utility if you look at Symmetra, and as for tanks, well, you have the kind of main tanks and off tank / bruiser category. So you can tell there's a lot going on there. And I do think that although I included the word bruiser in here, I don't actually count that so much, because a lot of the tanks have more or less the same usage, and you can get around, with pretty much any combination of the two if you decide to run two tanks or even sometimes 3 tanks in compositions. So, what I define as true roles in Overwatch? I think that if you look at top down, you look at the professional scene, you're going to see that there are a lot of players that don't flex. You're going to see that there are a lot of professional players that are almost one tricks. And I mean in the competitive scene. I don't want to say how they perform in the competitive ladder. I don't want to talk about their streams or their YouTube channels, because they play a lot to keep it fun and interesting. But look at the professional scene and see how much some of these pro players play a single hero, and how much they actually flex out of their role. It's really not as often as you might think. Now, when they're playing competitive, they're playing solo queue, duo queue, tri queue, they're going to be much more open to filling what the team needs and practicing different things and playing different heroes for fun, and we're not talking about that. So, with that said, I want to go on ahead and detail the fact that I think that almost every composition should have a tank, a healer, and a DPS. And that's why I think my version of what a role queue could be would actually work, but we're not talking about that either. So, what are the true roles in Overwatch? I think you have tank, whether that be main tank or off tank, not really specifying. I think you have healers, and that's mostly the support characters that can heal, and even kind of a subclassification of support only for Symmetra, because she does have her usage, whether that be as a third support or as a secondary support in your solo healing, but that's up for the team to decide. I think you have DPS, which is the damage role as a whole, and you have flex players. And why it's important to detail flex as an actual role is because there are lots of situations where the comps need to change, where the comps can change to bring in a third support, bring in a third tank, bring in a third DPS, and that cannot be classified by having, a set 2-2-2 comp. It can't be classified by enforcing a single meta and saying, you know, oh, you have to have 3 tanks. You just have to understand that there needs to be players on the team that are willing, capable, and ready to swap to the hero that is needed for certain situations. Now, if we look top down, I don't know how many players of each team in the pro scene that actually is, but in a solid system from my perspective, you should have 3 in a composition. And again, I don't want to talk too much about the role queue, but I do want to say that being a main, a DPS main, or a tank main, or a healing main is almost as important, if not just as important, as being a flex player. Now, you don't have the word main that makes it seem, you know, kind of somewhat prestigious and, you know, very personal, but being a flex player is amazingly valuable if you are doing it well. And all it takes is being willing to fill and being able to create win conditions by picking heroes and playing heroes that best fit the comp. And that's really pretty much what this discussion is about. I think that it's important to know that the real true roles in Overwatch are DPS, tank, healer, and flex. And that flex role is for varying amounts of members of the team in order to create the best comp possible for the meta, for the situation, for the map, for the point, etc., etc. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please do not leave without leaving a like and submit some gameplay for the coaching series. I'm really excited to get that started. I appreciate you watching this video. Subscribe for future content, and I'll see you in the next video.
Do you feel your bones start to shake? Do you feel the earthquake? Do you feel the fire inside of me? Do you see the sparks that I'm setting free? Does the beat take you over?